Brother Jerry is a resident of Vallejo. Brother Jerry is also a parishioner here at St. Catherine's. Brother Jerry has been involved with different ministries for many years at the parish, including the Knights of Columbus, Lazarus Ministry, where he helped to bury our parishioners at the end of their lives, and many other ministries. And Brother Jerry was originally from the Philippines, but he enrolled in the United States Army and rose to the rank eventually as a commandant sergeant major. Well, one day, earlier this year, Brother Jerry was with his friend in his car driving along Columbus Parkway and Admiral Callahan here in Vallejo. And he noticed a police car run after a vehicle. And the vehicle eventually pulled over, and there was only one police officer in the car, and that police officer ran after the driver. Well, Brother Jerry and his friend got out of their car and ran after the passenger. We found out later that the individuals in the car were wanted felons. That means that they were wanted for crimes that were committed, and they could have done further crimes here in Vallejo. I eventually went up to Brother Jerry and I said, "Brother Jerry, why'd you do that? Don't you know they could have done something to you? You didn't know that they were felons." And he simply shrugged it off and said, "Well, it was the right thing to do." Brother Jerry is an example of not just people that have entered into the military services or first responders or others who take care of other people, but this is a flesh and blood example of how God continues to work today, even in our world. He is with us. God is with us. And it's not just some lofty, high ideal up here where God is with us. Ooh, look how nice that sounds. But rather, God is with us through other people. And that's the main point I'd like to drive home today in our reflection this fourth Sunday of Advent, as we prepare for the birth of our newborn King in a few days. He is coming soon and very soon. We're going to see the King. So this leads me to the three main points of this homily, dear brothers and sisters. The first is that we're going to reflect on this title of Jesus as Emmanuel through the Old Testament, through the reading from the book of the prophet Isaiah today. Secondly, we're going to look at this title of Jesus as Emmanuel through our readings from the New Testament today. And thirdly, we're going to look at this title of Emmanuel in our lives today and how we can practically apply this in our everyday lives. So first, we're going to look at the Old Testament. Second, the New Testament. And thirdly, you today. And in order for us to understand this passage from today's Gospel from Matthew, where Joseph is a model for us of how God is with us, we have to first look at the first reading from the book of the prophet Isaiah. Because in today's Gospel, and in the first reading from the book of the prophet Isaiah, we hear this similar line, and it goes like this. Behold, the virgin shall conceive and bear a son, and they shall name him Emmanuel, which means God with us. And as I said, in order to understand this reflection from today's Gospel reading, we have to look at the first reading from the book of the prophet Isaiah. Because in the book of the prophet Isaiah, there's an evil king by the name of King Ahaz. And the line from the first reading says, "The Lord spoke to Ahaz, saying, 'Ask for a sign from the Lord.' Because what was going on here, King Ahaz, by the way, was one of the most evil kings for the Jewish people. And during this time, the people of God were surrounded by their enemies. And in order to ask for the protection against his enemies, you know what King Ahaz did? King Ahaz had at least 2 sons. And one of his sons, he sacrificed to a pagan idol to say, please help me and protect me. Please provide me your divine protection. Here's my son whom I'm going to sacrifice. Evil. And eventually, King Ahaz had a second son, later on, Hezekiah, who became one of the great kings of Israel and reversed what his father did. But Ahaz was approached by the prophet Isaiah. And the prophet Isaiah, interestingly, was a married man with 2 sons. And by contrast with Ahaz, the prophet Isaiah, it is written in today's book of the prophet Isaiah, said, ask for a sign. And Ahaz actually said, I will not tempt the Lord God. This was actually a form of false humility, because he wasn't going to God, he was going to the pagan idols. And Isaiah said, this is the sign that you are going to be given. Should you not worry men? Should you not also worry my God? The Lord himself, therefore, will give you this sign. The virgin shall conceive and bear a son, and shall name him Emmanuel. So already 800 years before Jesus is born, we see the prophecy that Jesus is going to be born of a virgin. And his title shall be Emmanuel, God with us. So already God is with his people, protecting them. And we don't need to rely on pagan gods or fortune tellers or palm readers or tarot cards or anything like that, or statues of pagan gods, or our lucky stars or luck. Rather, we as God's people rely on God's protection himself. He is with us. Just as God has done so in the past for you, so too he shall do now to take care of you, and he will always take care of you in the future. He is with us always. In fact, that's, on a personal note, one of the things I think of when I think of my second son, who we named Emmanuel. Because the other day I was just looking at him and I saw how God is still with us. Secondly, the second main point in this homily, dear brothers and sisters, is from the New Testament, from the Gospel according to Matthew. And in the Gospel of Matthew, we see this image of Joseph. And Joseph, by contrast with the evil Ahaz taking care of his sons, Joseph takes care of his foster son, his legal son rather, Jesus, by taking Mary into his care. He is a protector. He becomes the guardian of the Redeemer. And here are some reflection points about St. Joseph to help us prepare for Christmas, this Advent season. The first is that who better knows her own son? Who better to follow Jesus, the newborn king, than the mother of the newborn king? And so Joseph is the caretaker. He had the greatest devotion to the mother of the newborn king. So Joseph becomes a model for us to take care of others. Secondly, there's a title that's given to Joseph, and it's called Terror of Demons. And here's why we can learn from him. Because, brothers and sisters, we may have the spirit or be tempted by demons of fear and anxiety and depression and sadness and worry. But St. Joseph, just like in today's gospel, don't you think he had those same things? Don't you think he experienced the same anxieties taking care of the Son of God and the mother of the Son of God? Don't you think he had the same material concerns and had the same fears and worries? And that's why the angel had to give him a dream to comfort him? St. Joseph, as the terror of demons, shows us that we don't need to be afraid of those anxieties and fears, but rather those spirits of fear and anxiety should be afraid of us. We who are servants of the King, the newborn King, the King who will be born. We, through St. Joseph, the church, become the terror of demons, so that whenever you're tempted to be afraid of evil spirits or things in your lives that affect you, you yourselves know that those fallen spirits are afraid of Joseph. Control the fears through his intercession. And finally, another way to reflect on Joseph as a protector model for us is through his title, the Guardian of the Redeemer. He is the protector of the baby Jesus and the Holy Family. St. Joseph has that protector model that we as members of the church have. We don't need to be fathers or biological fathers to be protectors. What can we do to be like Joseph, the protector? Just like today, how does God help us to be like St. Joseph? So that's the second main point in today's homily, is the image of Joseph. So we saw the Old Testament, we saw the New Testament, but this third and final point, brothers and sisters, is you. What about you and me? Because this isn't just something that happened 2,000 years ago or 2,800 years ago. It happens today. Just like we hear the story of Brother Lasola. Just like we hear my example of my son Emmanuel, naming him Emmanuel. And we see this through this third and final point of how we can apply this today. Because in the second reading from today's reading, from the letter to the Romans, this is what I would like to highlight, this line. Through him we have received the grace of apostleship. Apostleship. You've been baptized and you're sent as apostles to go out and tell the world about this little baby that's going to be born. You and I are also protectors. And in a special way, I'd like to turn to those of us, in particular, to us who have the gift of being biological fathers, and give a word of encouragement. There's an old saying in Latin called ite ad Josephum, and it means go to Joseph. You got issues as a dad? Go to Joseph. You got issues with your wife or your significant other? Go to Joseph. You have issues trying to find work? Go to Joseph. You have issues in your home and your finances? Go to Joseph. You have issues with your own self? Go to Joseph. Ite ad Josephum. And so Joseph becomes a model for us to be that protector image for those of us who are called to family life, to protect our families. And then once we ourselves, brothers, have become the protectors of our families, we may say, yes, I've fallen, I'm weak, I'm a human being, but I'm gonna resolve to, just like Joseph, take care of those in my care, within my sphere of influence. And then do so not just in our own families, but then this extends out to the community. I mean, for example, this goes to all of us. As I mentioned 2 weeks ago when I gave my homily, the Diocese Deacon Review Board encouraged me to bring up some police chaplain stories with you. And one of those that I brought up was Brother Lasola. I was there when he got commended during the annual awards ceremony where we talked about all the good things that law enforcement does. And Brother Jerry just sat in the pew just like you and me. And yet he stepped forward to protect the community, to protect us. What can we do as well? The Vallejo Police Department has a Citizens Academy that's coming up. It's about 10 Saturdays. The same thing with Solano County Sheriff's Office. They have a Citizens Academy coming up on Wednesday evening. And one of the reasons why I bring this up also is because I want to raise awareness of one social issue that has been affecting us. That issue is the issue of human trafficking, the issue of trafficking even children. And some of you who are sitting in the pews may have been victims of this. And it still goes on today, brothers and sisters. It breaks apart families. It tears them apart, especially the little ones, by the thousands upon thousands upon thousands. Jim Caviezel has brought this up in his movie, The Sound of Freedom, that this goes on today. For us to be apostles, like St. Paul said, there is no time to say, gosh, life is so boring. No, it's not. You have your work cut out for you, brothers and sisters, just like I do. And we are called as the church. What can we do to protect our brother? You know, after the first murder in the book of Genesis, chapter 4, when Cain kills Abel, he says to God, am I my brother's keeper? Yes, we are a brother's keeper. How can we look out for each other? St. Augustine says, the way that we live the command to love our neighbor is by protecting the innocent, not just in the womb, but also the elderly and everybody in between. So St. Joseph, we ask you to help us, the church, during this time. As the theologian Hans von Balthasar said, the whole of human history has been a war over the child. A war over a child that has raged in heaven. Jesus, the child who would be born. What can we do to protect those children that are being trafficked across the border or across nations? What can we do here in addition to our prayer? We can look to Joseph. So in summary, dear brothers and sisters, we say thank you to those that protect us in the military, those who protect us as first responders. 2 weeks ago, Deputy Srenivas came up here to light the candle. Officer Leviste came up here to light the Advent candle. And we also see the example of Brother Jerry Lasola, who was your second reader today. We looked at, first, the Old Testament. We looked at, secondly, the New Testament. And thirdly, we looked at you. What can I do today to help protect God's people? Because this is how we can live those words of Emmanuel, God with us. Behold, the virgin shall conceive and bear a son, and they shall name him Emmanuel, which means God is with us.